Okay, good morning to everyone. We would like to welcome all of you to this international forum. As we all know, humanity is currently facing perhaps one of the most difficult times in the history of the world. Moreover, this pandemic has brought to light more attention to previous challenges such as poverty, inequality, and the lack of education. In that sense, we come together today to share different views and perspectives regarding society, and particularly to the role of business education on rebuilding society. It is a great pleasure for me and a privilege to introduce three good friends and colleagues. Joanne Lee, the Dean of FIU Business School, Florida International University in Miami. Joanne, welcome. Also to Josep Franch, Dean of ESADE Business School in Spain. Josep, welcome. And Gisele Becerra, she's the Executive Director of the Colombian Business Association, ASCOLFA. And last but not least, myself, Octavio Ibarra, the Dean of Norte, the Business School in Colombia. So I'm going to give you the agenda, Gisele, to lead the next steps. Welcome to everyone.
Thank you.
I think your mic is closed, Gisele. Yeah, you can turn it on.
Okay. Thank you, Octavio. Thank you very much to invite me to be here. It's wonderful for me to present, to have here to Joanne and Josep and you, Octavio, because in business education at this time, it's really extraordinary time for us. We have a lot of challenges that we need to do. We need to be a new building of the new society because we need to improve our economies. Then, for me, really, Dr. Joanne, it's a pleasure to introduce you and give you this 10 minutes to show us how are you doing, how are your experience in FIU, and how are you leader all these challenges that we have in our business school. Thank you very much, Joanne.
Thank you, Gisele. And thank you, Octavio and Uninate, for inviting me. And greeting from Miami. It's local time, roughly around 11:03. And Miami just turned into a hotspot. And I know a lot of people already know that. And I actually personally enjoy the topic of today's discussion because it allows us to kind of step aside from the business terminology and really focus on the humanity side. I think most often people will think about business school is all about business. And a lot of people have the misconception believing that it's all about money. Actually, business schools, it's so much beyond money. And we have such a humane side, and I'm excited to have this opportunity to talk a little bit about it. And I'm going to ask Alex to help me on this. As you can see the screen, I put the topic of today's discussion as the business school at the crossroad of this pandemic crisis. One of the things that I want to mention is, of course, as the fourth largest public university in the United States, we are active in planning. And FIU Business itself is the largest public business school in the state of Florida. We have 11,000 students. Now, put aside all those planning that we have, I think it's time after 4 months in lockdown, it's time to renew our core. What is our role as a business school in a time of uncertainty? The first thing I want to mention is, do not forget, we must be a partner. Partner to whom? Partner to our local community. FIU Business houses our Florida South Business Development Center. This is a federal quasi-agency. And what they do is they will take care of small businesses, providing consultation for free and everything. This is important for the business school to play a role in the community because, as you can imagine, during this lockdown, a lot of small businesses are the first one to be hit by all the economic downturn. So through the CARES Act in the United States, which is the federal government giving out kind of like a financial support to our small businesses. Our Small Business Development Center was very successful to allocate close to probably $30 million in terms of CARES Act money, providing free consultation, helping them out while they're, potentially laying off people and probably hoping to reopen their business. So this is the number one job of a business school, to be partner of the community. The second one, I'm sure everybody understands, we must be an innovator. Do not forget, a business school is a place to create knowledge. And our job is not just to teach. Our job is to continue to promote and create new knowledge that we research on every day. Now, I'll give you an example. Tomorrow, FIU Business is going to lead a data-thon. A data-thon, we're going to group together data analysts, system designer, and computer engineer, local businesses, students, faculty, and we are going to use that opportunity to group them together and study what the data is telling me about the COVID-19, how to create a dynamic calendar, how to create and repopulate a classroom repopulation. These are very important things that I think business school can do at this time. The last thing I want to talk about, business school is always a leader. Why? Because just by our fundamental training, our disciplinary training, our job is to connect the dots. Our main goal as a business school is to create system thinkers. Our students will be taught not only one discipline, but multiple disciplines. They will learn marketing, management, accounting, finance, leadership, technology, everything you can think of. So student coming out from the business school is not a very narrowly focused training. It's a very well-rounded system training. So one of the things that I want to make sure that people understand, business school has a very fundamental responsibility is to provide that kind of leader. When they graduate, they'll be able to connect the dot as a system thinker. Alex, the next slide, please. So one of the things that I would like to share is we always say that do not let a good crisis go to waste. What does it mean? After the lockdown, after the COVID-19 pandemic, we cannot unlearn what we have learned. It is an opportunity, I will say that, it is an opportunity to align our internal expectation as an institution with the external forces. The internal expectation is, I'm sure some of you probably observed in the past, you may have, stakeholder like faculty, staff, they were like, well, I'm not very good with the technology. But now we have no choice. The world has moved on. You have to come with me or else you will be left in the dust. And external forces is very simple. There's so many expectations from the government, from the business community, from parents, from students. So time to align these two. How do we do that? We are going to advance our technology, rethink about whether our stakeholders are trained, rethink about our stakeholders are equipped with hardware and software to do what they need to do to make sure teaching is happening, learning is happening. At the same time, pause and rethink what is the good teaching pedagogy going forward. We know that after this pandemic, we know we can do it. Then how do we perfect our teaching pedagogy so that we will continue to be focused on learner, create a learner-centric model? What do I mean by that? It is not easy to motivate your student through a computer screen. What are things you need to learn to be mindful about the mental stress? What do you need to learn about? Are they in an environment that is conducive to study? What do you need to learn to be a teacher, to be a staff supporting your student so that they can still be successful and learning still happens, success and graduate behind a computer screen? So I think this is time to call for a very, very focused learner-centric model. We must study and perfect our skill. And like what I said, either you take lead or else you're going to be left in the dust. All right, the next one, please, Alex. Okay, so I think that probably is the last of my slide, but I want to say that there is a question they're asking, what are the roles of a teacher? And there's a saying in Chinese, and I was born in Hong Kong, and there's a saying in Chinese, my dad always said that, to teach is actually in Chinese made of two characters. is to teach and to learn. So I think the role of a teacher is to not only to teach, but to learn so that you can continue to be a better teacher. So I actually have some more things to talk about, but I want to be mindful about the time. How is the time so far, Octavio? Do I have a few more minutes to say?
I suppose that you have 1 minute more.
Okay,
Dr.
fantastic.
Okay.
Of course. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gisele, for reminding me of time. And I think one of the things that as a public university, I think the landscape of higher education is actually changing. And I will speculate that universities located in urban cities like Miami, like Barcelona, will continue to be a bigger player because we will become the center, if we're not yet, but we will become the center of talent development. And part of it is also because of the connectivity of urban cities through airline infrastructure that will naturally make us to be the number one choice for all the talent development and meet the needs of the community. So that I use up my last minute.
Thank you, Joanne. Really, it was very important, the thing that you told us, because in your experience, the role of our business school and our business education on rebuilding society, it's a great opportunity to enrich the way that we engage with our society and how we create a more value for educational experience for our students and looking to impact in a way that we can develop our regions and we can be in the future we have a really sustainable in all the things that we do. Then thank you very much. And in this moment, please, Dr. Josep, it's your time. I'm very proud to have you here and thank you to be with us.
Thank you very much, Gisele. And thank you, Octavio, for inviting me to this virtual conference. I am very glad of being here. So let me just try to share my screen in a way so I can present my presentation. So I'm going to talk first about the economic impact of the pandemic. Then the, let's say, social impact, or at least the changes in the way we work, in the way companies work, and the way we have to prepare people for these positions. I will briefly share with you what are the lessons that we have learned during this academic year. And then I will talk about how the future is going to look like. At least in my opinion or my idea. And last but not least, what is our role as business school and what are the challenges that we have ahead of us? So when talking about the economic impact, I have prepared just a few graphs that I have taken from a BBC report based on different sources. Some of the things that you might already heard are the impact of coronavirus on our economy. The stock markets really fall down in the first term of this year, and even though they have been recovering, they are still like 20% below or 13% below the position they used to have at the beginning of the year. Another tremendous impact is the unemployment that has grown in the last few months. It's growing a lot in Japan, in Germany, in UK, France, Italy, the US. I mean, all across the board, we see how unemployment is increasing. Another impact has been the millions and millions of workers that have been furloughed. Each small square is 1 million workers. So if you count, for instance, Germany here, it's like 10 million people, and that's 23% of all the German workforce that have been sent home. They have been furloughed because there is no work to do due to the pandemic. And some industries have been very badly hit by this. One important industry, for instance, in the case of Spain, is tourism. And as you can imagine, tourism has gone, there is no tourism at all. And now we are starting to recover some tourism, but, the entire industry has shut down, hotels closed, and people sent back home without work, temporarily. And the last but not least, on terms of the economic impact, is that the majority of countries in the world are on the brink of recession, except a few. But, the only thing, it's not whether or not you're going to have a recession. It's how bad this recession is going to be, depending on where are you located. And those are some estimates from the International Monetary Fund. Of course, the second thing is the changes that coronavirus have meant in the way we live and in the way we work. And I'm sure that you've seen probably some of these pictures. We are changing the way we interact with each other. Planes are flying empty. People have to keep a social distance. Well, I don't like to call that a social distance. I mean, social distance is something that we probably had before the pandemic. It's just physical distance. A lot of precautions when we work, and the new normal. You are all familiar with this. I mean, that has been the new way of working and organizing ourselves and talking to each other. And as a consequence, business schools had also to adapt to this situation. And this is a picture of one of our facilities at ESADE. Here you have a faculty member teaching with a large number of different students located in different parts of the world, and teaching remotely, because we've been closed for a number of months. We opened a few weeks ago, but that's not much the situation. I mean, the majority of courses have finished already, and we are already looking at the next academic year. Okay, what have we learned this year? The first thing is that we discovered what VUCA really means. I mean, we were telling our students in class the VUCA concept, that our world has volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. This probably was a blah, blah, blah in our courses. Now, VUCA is what we have going through with this pandemic. We've seen how the disruption in higher education has accelerated very fast. I mean, this disruption was coming, but it was coming at a very low speed, and this has changed dramatically. We all were in a situation where we had to, swim or sink. So we had to transition to the online delivery literally overnight. We were closed on a Thursday, and on Friday morning, we were doing online courses. In the majority of courses, the others followed the next Monday morning. And I would say we've been really successful in this. We learned how to use lots of tools. Those were tools that we already had, but we were not using, and that we have mastered the use of these tools probably because, we were forced to. An important thing that we have discovered, online learning can also be high touch. The misconception was that online learning was low touch and face-to-face was high touch. Okay, but we have learned that we can do a quality online delivery with high touch. The students have been reasonably satisfied with the changes and how we have adapted. Of course, there have been some complaints because they were missing the campus life and the campus experience. But I mean, the studies continued. And what I was telling the students in one of the virtual graduations is you have developed a different set of competencies this year. Those were not the competencies that we were planning originally when you enrolled in our programs. But I mean, we had to change overnight. And probably your generation is a generation that have, mastered some competencies that were not initially, forecasted or planned. And last but not least, I mean, what we went through were some faculty tensions due to the extra work. Faculty had to adapt, change methodologies, change the delivery, do different things, more mentoring, more one-to-one interaction with students, more revision of work, and this has created some faculty tensions. Now, how the future is going to look like. I mean, I do not have a crystal ball. The word that I hear the most when talking about the future is what Joanne said, uncertainty. But with this uncertainty, I'm going to tell you something that I anticipate. I do not have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that the pre-COVID way of doing things is not going to come back. We will not be coming back to the old times. The future, to me, is hybrid. Hybridization was in our strategic plans, but it was a 4-year plan, 5-year plan. Okay, hybridization has come overnight. Another thing that we have to consider is that the concept of short-term, long-term have today a completely different meaning for us and for the companies. I mean, 4-year strategic plan, excuse me, how can you do a 4-year plan today if we do not know how next September is going to look like? To me, short term is next week, mid-term is probably September, and long-term is January at most. So have been Zooming our students like hell. And we have to rethink our contents, rethink the approach, and rethink methodologies based on, instructional design. And of course, adaptability and flexibility are key. Let me finish with our challenges. What are the challenges ahead for us as deans of business schools? One of the first challenges, how can we build a virtual learning environment which is as effective as a face-to-face? The second is one of the things that students have claimed they are missing the most. How can we replicate the campus experience? Yes, you can learn accounting, you can learn economics, you can learn marketing in an online course, but what about the campus experience? What about the interaction? Third challenge, what are the key competencies that our students will need to develop for the next future? Tolerance for ambiguity, resilience, management of complexity, how to work in teams and lead teams virtually, how to be faster in decision making, agility. I mean, this is not a comprehensive list, but probably we have to rethink the competencies in our programs. And of course, as well, the contents, new contents or enhanced contents, digital transformation, disruption models, crisis management, big data, artificial intelligence. This is coming more and more important in our curriculums. Probably we need to think that if we want to survive, we will need some partnerships, and some partnerships which are not necessarily only academic partnerships, also non-academic partnerships with other industries, with other organizations. And last but not least, something that probably all deans are concerned with, rankings. Do they make any sense as they are produced today? When we think that rankings are measuring the salary growth of our graduates? I mean, do you anticipate a salary growth in the economic crisis that we are facing in the next future? Probably ranking agencies will need to do a completely different way of measuring what are the quote unquote the quality or the best performing business schools. And I don't know if I've been going too long for the time that I had. So that was my ideas about how do we see the situation and how do we see the future.
Dr. Joseph, it was wonderful and very interesting. You tell us that we are in VUCA moment, and we have not the way that we can think that we are in the last moment. And the storm pass, our institution maybe had been revolutionated because your experience and your enthusiasm that you show, it continue to have a good dissemination of knowledge that using technology. Then it's very interesting because we need to innovate, we need to have a new process because we need to enhance the relation between industry and how we can are able to offer employers that have the chance to have new skills to be in the new workforce. Then really it was a really goals, a really challenge that we have to do because we need to impact our society and the new models in our organizations and in the new models in our economy. Thank you very much. Then, Dr. Octavio, it's your time. You have 10 minutes to show us your experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Gisele. Thank you. I will ask Alexandra if she could help me with my presentation, please. Okay, as Joanne and Josep did, I also would like to share some views regarding how to rebuild society and the role of business education. Next one. I have structured this presentation with three main aspects. The first one referring why do we need to rebuild society? Because we have some challenges before COVID. The second one refers to education in Latin America, and the third one refers to the role of business education on rebuilding society. So I'm gonna talk about the first one first. Why do we need to rebuild society? And here I would like to share with you some numbers regarding the economic performance of Latin America before COVID. We had last year an unemployment rate about 8%. We fell in our goods imports and exports. We have a very low expected growth for 2020. Next one. We also now with the COVID this situation, we have jobs lost worldwide 400 million, and the GDP is expected to fall 5% in Latin America. And as you can see in that slide, we have the informal labor regarding 53%. That means that the 53% of the population is not formally connected with companies. So when we talk about informal labor, that means that people need to go outside, they need to go to the streets to get food. So that's a huge challenge for all Latin American countries. Also, the unemployment rate after COVID is expected to really to fall or to be around the 11%. Next one, please. If we compare our Latin American countries to in the doing business ranking, referring to other countries like New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Norway, the United Kingdom, we can see that these countries are really far away, our Latin American countries, in terms of doing business and the way we compete in the world. As you can see, the first one in Latin America is ranking the 54th position, which is Mexico. Then we have Chile, then we have Colombia. So as we can can see, the bottom line is that we have a huge gap. We have still a lot of work to do to be more competitive in Latin America. Next one. Yeah. When we refer to doing business and referring to the doing business report, it really refers to how to start a business, getting location, dealing with day-to-day operations. In other words, how easy it's for any entrepreneur to be in or to start a business. In the next one slide, we can see some comparisons between, for example, Colombia and China in terms of the starting, for example, a business takes like Colombia around 100 days. And if we compare it to China, they take around 28 days. 28 days. If we talk about getting electricity, we take about 80 days, when in other countries refers to 14 days in China. Registering a property takes 59 days, and in China it takes 27 days. So we still have a lot of work to do. Next one. I also would like to refer to the structure of business activity in Latin America. We are economies that are really based on small companies. As you can see in the figures, about 90% of the economic performance is based on small companies and on micro businesses. So in order to be more competitive in the world, we need to really foster the performance of those companies, to make it more easy to start a business, and we really need to work on the ecosystem in Latin America, and the entrepreneurship ecosystem for the whole region. Next one. These are some examples, and also another challenge referring to the equilibrium between the GDP growth and also our trade activities, referring to imports and exports. For example, in Colombia, import activities are higher than export activities. We still have a long way to go in terms of agribusiness. So in terms of the way that we need to get a balance between those trade activities and the GDP growth. Next, please. Also in this figure, we can see the structure of the economy or of our economic activities. As we can see, South America, we are still very or highly dependent on commodities. As you can see, the 55% of our activities refers more to commodity than even the high technology manufacturers or medium technology manufacturers. So we are still highly dependent to that volatility that Josep, for example, where he was mentioning. We are still very vulnerable to international prices. That means that we're very weak in terms of responding to an economic crisis, and even more right now with that pandemic. Next one, please. This is an example of the ecosystem in Colombia. For example, this is the way we run the entrepreneurship ecosystem. In the last year, in 2019, there were 300,000 companies created, but they have a durability rate of 2 years. That means that we have many companies every year that are created, but they last only for 2-3 years. That means that we need to work harder and to bring more opportunities to the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And that's part of the problem that we have in Latin America. Next one, please. If we compare our activities to some leading innovation hubs different than Silicon Valley, as you can see, there is no really any Latin American country, those innovation hubs. And working in the ecosystem really will help Latin American countries to have more advanced steps in becoming innovation hubs. And part of the exercise that we need to do in Latin America is to really to explore ways to improve that innovation activity, to improve the support of governments regarding innovation hubs. Next one. This one refers to different stages of the ecosystem development, and perhaps as you can see, we have something that is called the ecosystem life cycle model, which refers to different steps in terms of the development of companies. You can see the activation phase, the globalization, expansion, integration, And usually Latin American countries are in the first phase, which is activation. And we need to work to be more global or to have a different scale of business. Next one, please. Also in this slide, I would like to share those ecosystems that are more advanced in terms of development, in terms of global market reach, in terms of the way they connect to other companies in the world. As you can see, we have Tel Aviv, Silicon Valley, New York City, London, and there's any from Latin America. Next one, please. Another topic that I would like to refer in that current situation before COVID refers to poverty. As you can see, 2018 and 2019, poverty increased and extreme poverty also increased. So we have to do something. This is a huge challenge for our society, and that challenge it's really harming the society, even so long before COVID situation. So we need to really to pay attention to this poverty and extreme poverty situation in Latin America and then in the whole world. And as you can see, 2020, now with the pandemic, that will increase to 30% or 13% when we refer to extreme poverty. Next one, please. Another topic also refers to climate change. In order to rebuild a society, we need to really to have a collective sense of the importance of climate change. And that includes Latin America. We have a lot of potential to fight climate change, but we need to make people more sensible in terms of the benefits of fighting climate change and the responsibility that we all have. Next one, please. As you can see in this figure, according to the United Nations report, Latin America and the Caribbean represents 5% of the global emissions of gases, and even though that number is not that, it's a huge number compared to other countries. I think that's a call for attention. We need to understand that climate change harms the whole world, including Latin America. And according to the same report, United Nations, 11% of the world population is currently vulnerable to climate change actions. Next one. These are some of the examples of the percentage and the spending on several issues regarding our society, referring to central government spending, to social protection, to education. As we can see, we have different percentage, but when we compare these to other regions in the world are really far away. Many of the countries in the world are in a range of 20%, 15%. I'm talking about before COVID, and still more effort is needed for our governments in Latin America to spend on social protection and education and housing and community amenities. Next one, please. Okay, the second perspective I would like to share is the importance of education in Latin America. Next one. Latin America has still a huge gap in terms of people accessing high quality education. It's not only about covering education, but covering with high quality. So there are many improvements in terms of primary education, secondary education, and higher education, but it's still the competition rate, which you can see in the next slide, is still far away. The next one, we can see, for example, Mexico, Chile, Colombia, in which 50% of the population or only 50% are able to complete higher education, and a huge number, they have to drop out because of economic conditions or lack of opportunities or lack of support from different governments. So part of the inequality, part of the poverty that we have really harms the way we educate our people. Next one, please. And the third aspect I would like to share, it refers to the role of business education on rebuilding society. In that sense, the first concept I would like to share that this is a very well-known concept that has been implemented in many parts of the world, but it's still in Latin America and Colombia, we need to go further, which refers to the sustainable development that brings different perspectives, not only from a financial perspective, but also from a social impact, and also from an environmental perspective. Business community really have to make greater efforts in terms of social impact initiatives, in terms of the environmental aspect. It's not only about doing business and having profits for an economic activity. We really need to bring a wider perspective. But more important is to make people sensible regarding sustainable development and the need to improve sustainable activities. Next one, please. These are three proposals that the World Economic Forum shares with the world community. The first one refers to retooling economic policy. We need to do something more in terms of government actions. The second one refers to identifying new sources of economic growth. And the third one refers to aligning on new targets for economic performance. I think it's really surprising that in many parts of the world, we are still discussing whether climate change is important or not, or whether we should look or not for new sources of economic growth. We really need to take more actions. Less conference and more actions regarding sustainable development, and particularly identifying new sources of economic growth. Next one, please. These are some of the examples on how to deal with that and how to really search for or explore different ways. The first one refers to changing the shape of demand in terms of alternative proteins or more food in terms of food safety, quality, and more nutritious food. The second one refers to promoting value change, really connections in terms of the supply chain and the transparency and traceability. And the third one is a challenge that is called creating effective production system. This is called by the World Economic Forum of the 12th transformative strategy, which brings together different actions, but in a pathway that really take care of society. It's not only about doing business; it's the way we do it. Next one, please. When we have education, and particularly business education, as the center of the society, we can also have a positive impact on different aspects of society. For example, political rights, human rights, emotional well-being of people, cultural rights. And particularly in Latin America, I think it's essential to change the way we approach to education. Education should be not only an important aspect, should be the safe fight, for example, corruption. When we have educated people, they are free to think, they are free to choose. So education should be in the center of our society. Next one, please. But not everything is wrong. I think in Latin America, for example, we have a great potential with the Amazon. The Amazon really produced 10% of the oxygen in the country, in the world. And as you can see in the next one, 60 or 20% of the clean water is produced in the Amazon. So we still have opportunities if we change the way we do things. And part of the problem that now we are having with the COVID is that we have many different challenges before COVID. And we need to have more structured society, more robust society, but in terms of benefiting humanity. Next one, please. And when we refer to clean energy as a way to really rethink society, perhaps it's a very interesting way. Not all economies in the world have the same perception of the importance of clean energy, but I think it's going to be a very important step now after COVID with these all health issues. Perhaps it's the opportunity to implement clean energy policies and bring the business community together for a main purpose of having more clean energy activities. And the next one. Yeah, and finally, I would like to share something that we have been working in our university and our region, which refers to collective leadership. The way we educate people to lead the way. We really need to bring together a new generation of entrepreneurs, the existing ones, all the community, and to bring together all these actions to have the collective leadership. Latin America has a high potential, but we need to work together, and that's why we refer to collective leadership. So that's I think that was the last one slide to share. So I'm all yours, Giselle.
Octavio. Really, it was interesting because it was another point of view. You show us that we need to work together to have a very strong network, but we need to understand the challenge that we have with the poverty, that we have with the change of the climate, that we need to develop an ecosystems who improve the entrepreneur and the innovation here in Colombia and in Latin American, because we have 80 and 90% of our industry is micro business or small business. Then it was really very interesting for us. Then let me ask for all of you three questions. I'm going to begin with Dr. Joanne because you tell us the importance to have in mind our leadership and how is our role in business education to improve our society, to close the gap with the poverty, to enhance, to rebuilding the economic system. Then I want to ask you, what do you think is the main role that we need to have in business education to be really one agent to to be able to potential the innovation and entrepreneur ecosystems to respond the Latin American requests in our society.
Thank you very much, Giselle. That's a very important question. I think maybe a couple of months ago, I did a presentation and one of the audiences was asking a question of, during this pandemic crisis, should I start my business? And I am going to share the same answer that I shared, with them the other day. Just like having a baby, there will never be a good time to have a baby, but nonetheless, you must have the baby. So the analogy is very simple. I think human being is a very agile entity. With that regard, I always believe that business education bears a very important responsibility. In addition to all the hard skill like finance, accounting, analytics, technology, the things that we need to teach our candidate, one thing is very important is to continue to influence the public opinion, to believe that business education goes beyond the hard skill. We have a lot of essential skill we teach students. Some may call it soft skill, but I say this is very essential skill. Particularly this past few months, the lockdown actually revealed an opportunity for all of us here. How do you train your candidate to have a mindset that is agile, ready to be innovative, and not to be afraid to make small mistakes, right? The ability to adapt is essential as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a community, but more importantly, it's very important for higher education. Long gone are the day that, hey, these are the doctrines, you have to recite it, remember it, and spill out again. The pandemic actually promoted a very agile mindset and allow us to have, take a step back and ask ourselves, what can we do going forward if you have everything being rigidly, designed? Right. So I think a few years in business school, we're fascinated by the idea of design thinking. But the design thinking itself, while some business school may not practice it, but it's really worth to rethink about what is design thinking. Design thinking is actually through empathy. We, as an organization, whether it's high ed or company, allow our participants and our stakeholders to build a solution that is shared empathy, a solution that is empathetic to address and very dynamic question. So I think this is one thing that business school can do better after the pandemic, to allow ourselves, and often I say it to my colleagues, we are absolutely sure about one thing, right? In addition to tax, we're absolutely sure about one thing. In life, we will make mistakes. And the only thing that we are going to do in our life as a business school is, while we make the mistakes, just don't make it twice. And learn those mistakes and use it as a premium, as a life lesson, and work on it, right? Like playing a puzzle. If that piece doesn't fit, quickly move on to the next piece. I think the agile mindset will be something that we need to really continue to teach our students, in addition to that hard skill that we are going to provide them anyway.
Thank you, Joanne. It was really very interesting. Dr. Josep, how do you think is the main role? Because you tell us how we are learning, how the lessons that we have in this moment show us that we need to improve, quickly change using technology to be able to using technology to have the face-to-face, and rethinking how is the role our institutional building or the campus in our institution. Then, what do you think is the big goal that we have to do?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that one of the lessons also that we can learn from this pandemic is that people who have the capacity of reinventing themselves. I mean, these days that as we were, going back to normal life in Barcelona and walking around, you see some stores which are still closed and probably will not open. So the crisis really hit very hard all this small business ecosystem. But let me tell you one example. The other day, last weekend, I met a friend of mine. She owns a bakery. She is the third generation that has been running this bakery in a small village in the coast. During the pandemic, she completely reinvented the business, starting delivering bread and cakes with a bicycle to the different people in the village who were afraid of going to the shop or who were confined in their homes. And she has been reasonably successful. Whereas other businesses have decided, okay, we close down, we send our employees for love, and then we will ask the government for some subsidy to survive. That's the wrong answer. What I mean with this story is that it is the individual who is the entrepreneur. We can teach entrepreneurship. We can teach business models. We can provide them with the tools, whatever. But at the end of the day, you need someone with an attitude of doing things in a different way. Someone who has the capacity to, have a dream, have a vision, and pursue this dream and this vision. And that's what, at the end of the day, is an entrepreneur. So we, in business schools, can teach them to do things, to do's and not to do's. And we can share case studies and we can share success stories. But at the end of the day, it's like the saying that the better way to predict the future is to invent it. So it is the person who has to have a personal drive to be able to, have an idea of a business and fight for it. And that's difficult to communicate. You need people with some attitude to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Josep. It's really interesting because you tell us the lesson that we are learning show that we are able to do something things that we don't think that we are able to do, and we need to have a big deals and maybe to have the opportunity to put one foot in the future and go back to the past and be able to take a new decision. Really, it's a great goal. Then I want to ask Octavio, you show us the economic situation and the importance that we have that develop a strong ecosystem looking to have real innovation and real entrepreneurial skills in our students, in our professional workforce. What do you think is the big deal that we need to develop in our business education to create a really ecosystem that we can give our society entrepreneur and innovators workforce?
Yes, thank you, Gisele. I think the first step that we have to make is to work on seed capitals. Sometimes there are so many meetings regarding entrepreneurship activities, talking about how to scale some business, but we don't refer to the first step. Is if I want to start a business, what do I do? What type of resources do I have available? Where do I go? Should I go to the financial sector? Is it good for me as an entrepreneur to knock on that door before exploring other options? So I think it will be very interesting if we have a more robust seed capital system for new entrepreneurs. It's so difficult in Latin America and in Colombia to start a new business. It's so expensive, and entrepreneurs face many challenges, and they are in the same, let's say, like the same hole because they don't have the money to start the business. If they go to a bank, it's going to be so expensive. So we need to really work on a very robust seed capital system to help new entrepreneurs. The other thing is to, through education, bring the tools for a strategic mindset. As Joanne said, we could have, and Josep, we could have different education in terms of marketing, finance, and all these functional areas. But we need to really uh, make people stronger in terms of a strategic mindset, in terms of the changes that they have to make, in terms of understanding the environment, understanding competition, and understanding every situation that they need to face. Probably, yeah, I think that these two will help a lot. And the third one, I believe, refers to social sensing. I mean, in terms of making people more social or sensible in terms of taking care more about other people, because our 50% of our population is informal, and it's very difficult, like, when you have that huge or high percentage. We need to fight poverty. We need to bring more equality. But what worries me is that it's always the same topics that they are not solved. So we have been talking so many years about fighting poverty and extreme poverty and inequality, but the results are there. I mean, they are increasing. Poverty is increasing even before COVID. So something is wrong. And I think the first step should be to have educated people to choose good leaders for countries and cities and states. In order to have an entrepreneurship law, in order to work on the ecosystem, because we need resources to have a more robust ecosystem, and then bring the whole community and the stakeholders together for one purpose. I think these three aspects perhaps could help.
Thank you, Dr. Octavio. It's a great and many challenges that we have in our business school in in how we are delivering in the next months our education, business education. Then, in order that you show us, Dr. Joanne, you tell us that it's very important transforming teaching and learning process. How we can do in a short time this big transformation that we need.
Thank you, Gisele. So I think during the lockdown, we started on March 11, our academic enterprise has to move remote. And in FIU business, 40% of our undergraduate education out of the 8,000 students we have, they're already online. So we're ahead of other colleges. Part of it is because the state of Florida mandates that we have to transition some portion strategically into online. So we're a little bit more prepared than other people. So we already have the expertise. And FIU business actually started online education over 20 years ago. So we have the technology. But to really influence the group of faculty, they are really sitting on the bench and thinking, should I do it or should I not? As I said earlier, the circumstance presented itself. The circumstance presented opportunity. So after March something, we started to do what we call the remote synchronized learning. So students still interact with the faculty in a synchronized portion. Tuesday, Thursday, 9 a.m., I see my professor, I see my other classmate. Now, during the whole summer, we have worked very closely with our academic enterprises, with the two division dean, undergraduate and graduate, to figure out what could be the best scenario for us under this world of uncertainty. So we decided to go with, I mentioned earlier on, called the high flex model. The high flex model, which is a subset of a hybrid. What does it mean? Meaning that students can have some portion coming back on campus under the adjusted classroom capacity, and some students can choose to go into a remote synchronous learning. So what does that really mean for the college? That means we have to equip the classroom, hardware, software, technology, training, and everything should be in place. Big part about it is not only for operation. Big part about it is to assure people, faculty, staff, and student, we are ready. Get their mindset ready, get them feel like I'm protected, my institution cares about me. So what we're doing is strategically we move the whole entity into a high flex model, and that allows FIU business to stay agile. On August 24th, if the university really indeed opens and the health concern, the health department, everything's like, okay, you can allow and assume some face-to-face portion, FIU business will be ready to move back and allow some face-to-face interaction with student and faculty. And simultaneously, we order the face visor to allow faculty to go in and teach. We have individual microphone just for the faculty, your only, and nobody can use that microphone. We create plexiglass to make sure that high traffic area will be protected. And we also, university side, will also put in sanitizing wipe. And each faculty and staff will be provided 2 face covering. And in addition, everybody entering FIU campus must fill out a survey through a P3 app developed by FIU. Now, strategically, all these things is actually to assure people, to assert confidence. But strategically, we have taken care of this opportunity, right? Allowing our people to understand this is a point of no return. In the past, when you believe that face-to-face is the only option, now we present another type of teaching pedagogy. We will be there to support you. Let's learn it together and stay positive, right? And it's not like, oh my goodness, I have to learn another new teaching pedagogy. As I share with my colleagues, we will be with you every single step of the way. We will make mistakes, but we'll make mistakes together. We're going to learn together. So strategically, I think we have a good game plan, but we don't know, right? When August 24th comes, it may turn out that the health department in Florida say, nope, everybody have to go remote, but we're ready because of the equipment and the software we already put in place. Should we go remote, we'll be ready for that too.
Thank you, Joanne. Josep, Dr. Josep, you tell us that we are in the VUCA moment and the storm have two ways. One, we died or we survived. Then we are looking to survive. Then what do you think is the role of the teachers to be able to survive and to develop all the transformation in our learning and learning process? Do you have your microphone up?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, faculty members have a very difficult task because they have to transform the way we interact with the students. What we are anticipating for fall, again, if we can open, is a situation where classrooms will be occupied by 1/3 or 50% of their capacity with a hybrid model, with the students in class and students at home, with the students with mobility restrictions, not able to join us in the fall term. So what we have anticipated is a situation where students can join the academic year in campus when they are able to travel. In the meantime, they can start online, and then we will need to catch up, doing some kind of intense seminars to level, to put the students at the same level for the following term. So, I mean, we have designed a number of things. We have invested 2.8 million euros in equipping our classrooms with technologies that allow for, broadcasting classes and recording classes, individual equipment for every single faculty member if we are confined again, so they can teach in better conditions at home. We've been doing intensively training of faculty members during the summertime, preparing asynchronous materials to complement the synchronous materials. So, I mean, we've been doing a number of things. The key thing is, as I was saying before, what we did these past few months, it has been an emergency situation. Everyone understands. We jump online, we start, zooming and zooming and zooming. That's not the best way to do. We need an instructional design. So we have to think very carefully which are the materials that students can learn on their own in an asynchronous way, and what are the times, or what are the components that are more adding value, and we have to do in synchronous interaction if we are back home, or face to face if we are allowed to go to the campus. This requires from everyone a maximum flexibility and adaptability. Students have to change and have to adapt. Faculty members have to change and have to adapt. This means they have to invest lots of time. We also need to recognize this time that faculty members are devoting to rethink all the materials in their workload, because otherwise, they have plenty of things they have to do. They have to do research, they have to do many things, and of course, time for a faculty member is a very precious good. And of course, we have to recognize from an institutional viewpoint the time of faculty. Creativity is basic. They have to have freedom to innovate, to try new things, to test new things. Don't be overconfident and don't keep on repeating what you've been doing so far. An online delivery cannot be done the same way you were teaching before in class. And that's pretty obvious. No one is going to stand a lecture of 2 hours of a guy in front of a camera. Even, he's very entertaining. So you have to have a different activities, different, pieces of knowledge, golden nuggets that you have to learn. You have to curate your materials and provide them. So teachers become, in this new environment, facilitators of learning. uh, Students can learn basic concepts on their own in some materials, but the time that faculty members spend with the students is the most valuable time. So here is where you have to give your added value. Here is what you have to give your best in a way to maximize the student learning and the student experience.
Thank you, Dr. Josep. I have, Octavio, for you a question, because you tell us that we need to have research. What kinds of research we must develop to be able really to resolve the problems that we have in our society? And our audience have a question for you in order to know what is the expected economy in the next year if the pandemic produced by the COVID-19 left many of our micro entrepreneurs delayed building their working capital, and maybe they will be very vulnerable.
So
I,
which one would you like me to answer first?
I
Why?
think that the first, the research, because to answer
Okay.
the second, is very important to have research, to
All
have
right.
a new finances, using the fintech, to using other models.
Yes. Okay. Regarding research, I think all the businesses we face challenges in terms of intellectual productivity, the way we publish books and journals, and even other intellectual products. Uh, but I think we should reflect on the impact of our research. That sometimes publishing a book has a higher impact on communities. We should perhaps focus our research efforts to solving humankind problems. Um, there are so many opportunities in which business schools invest money, resources, time, human capital in terms of getting into those important journals, because these are very important. However, however, we have also other priorities. So I think that the challenge is how to get an equilibrium between those journals, but also to have intellectual activity and research activity to solve humankind problems. We should focus on solving humankind problems, and research, especially in Latin America, should have one priority, which is use science, use whatever you have in terms of your universities and labs, whatever you have, to help and to contribute to solve humankind problems. I think that will help a lot in terms of really establishing priorities for investment and priorities for research. The second question refers to, what to do now after COVID and after this pandemic for entrepreneurs. Uh, Perhaps one thing will be to explore new business models, as the example that Joseph was mentioning, to explore new business model, not a business plan, to explore the business model, the way we operate. Perhaps the value change is gonna suffer many changes. So today you are a retailer, and tomorrow you're going to be a manufacturer. Or on the other hand, you were a manufacturer, but after the pandemic, you identify a new business opportunity and you need to become a retailer. So it's going to be a contraction of the value change, and we need to really understand in this new reality what role do we have in the value chain. The second one should be focusing on getting cash flow. The cash flow right now is the king of the businesses. We need to have a business model that focus on having cash flow in order to be able to survive. I think these two aspects could help. There are other actions, but are more at the government side. For example, like the universal basic income. For example, as I understand, for example, Peru has been spending 12% of the GDP for the pandemic. Colombia has spent around 2.5% of the GDP, so we still have a room to go in terms of the expenditure and in terms of the universal basic income. I think Joanne will correct me. I think USA spent 25% of the GDP on the pandemic, and the United Kingdom 30%. So when we compare that to Colombia, it's only 2.5. So we still have really a gap to go, and more effort is needed in terms of government actions.
Thank you, Dr. Octavio. I have my final question to you, and it's the same for you. How business school will be able to impact society and close the social gap? Please, Joanne, you are first.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question again? I cannot hear it because of the interception.
Okay. How business school will be able to impact our society and be able to close the social gap that we have in Latin America?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. I think the past decade, higher education has continued to receive a lot of criticism from politicians, not a very favorable public opinion and support of higher education, at least in the United States. But I think Latin America, as Octavio was talking about that, the society in general really needs more educated class and workforce to join in order for the economy to continue to grow and advance. So it will look upon higher education to really think through how to close the information gap and generate positive opinion on higher education. So in the past, we always say that we fail to tell the story. And I think that there are a recent article talk about it in Chronicle Education. I think perhaps the time to ask ourselves is we must tell a different story. Why higher education must play a part in advancing economy. And fend off all the criticism about, well, nobody should go to college because now with a high school graduate degree, you can succeed, you can make a living. But numerous economic support come out, empirical research came out, and they all suggested if you go to college, there is indeed a premium. After you control the cost of going to college, there will be indeed a premium. And higher education still plays a very important role to improve economic mobility. It rests upon our shoulder as leaders of higher education to tell a different story, to change the public opinion about why higher education is still a value proposition. And I think in the past, we just didn't do it right. Now it's time. The pandemic may induce a big debate on the Great Divide. Should we open or not open? What is the next step forward? But the more important question is, in the sea of uncertainty, we as leader of higher education should continue to tell a better story and tell people like, okay, you went to college. Why are you coming in and say that higher education is not valuable? What a hypocrite. Of course, we're not going to use that kind of language, but I think it's important for us, whether we're professors, staff that work in higher education, and try to remind people the big part to define a successful economy. There are two variables, the level of education and the discretionary income, and they are actually hand in hand. So in order for Latin America to be perceived as a more successful economy, these two aspects must be improved. So the level of education is one of the major denominator for us to say whether this economy is developed or developing. So I think a big part for us is to really to tell a better story or even a different story.
Thank you, Joanne. Dr. Josep, please, how
Yeah,
business will be able to impact?
I believe we need to understand that we have here a role to play as business schools leaders. We can decide that we train people, or we can decide that we generate agents of change. So, I mean, if we do the first thing, we provide the last techniques and the most sophisticated business models to smart individuals who come to our classrooms. But I think that our role is to think that we have the unique opportunity to educate people so they can become real agents of change, so they can create wealth around themselves. And when I say wealth, I don't mean money for them, but can generate a positive impact because they can create employment for people, for other people. They can dynamize society. They can really push and boost the level of neighborhood of a village or a region. And it is extremely important to understand that they have to do that in a responsible way, in a way that it's not just that they have to look for their own benefit, but they have to look for the benefit of the society as a whole. Moving from the pure shareholder value to the stakeholder value. So, and these are things that we can do because it's in our hands to educate people to be, again, agents of change.
Thank you, Josep. Dr. Octavio, please, your opinion.
Thank you. So, well, probably, I mean, I agree with what Joanne mentioned and Joseph, but I would like to add something. Um, I think we could have a better approach in terms of community initiatives that will help a lot. Faculty members with an increasing sense of humanity. I think that will play a key role in these activities. Um, let me share some topics that we have discussed in our classrooms. The other day I was with a group of our students, and we were discussing whether we were lions acting as a cats or cats acting as a lions. I think we are lions acting as a cats because Latin America has really a huge potential. We have so many clever people that they only need an opportunity in terms of education. They need access to education, and that's the really the key challenge. We need to make more efforts to bring high quality education for all. That will help a lot to change our society. When we have educated people, you bring better chances to build a better society. And I think we working on those aspects. At least we will move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Octavio. I think that, first I want to say all of you thank you because we have an hour and a half really very value. We learn a lot. We have a lot of questions for our audience. We have no time, but I think that we learn a lot because we have a time to reflect, to be resilience, to imagine what is the future of our business school. Then we have a big lesson learned today. And the lesson is that we have a special time. It's an extraordinary time to build the new education, but we can fail to do it. Then we have many big challenges and big goals to have a new education model in business education that we are really able to enhance, to do very innovate and to have many projects that really respond to the needs that our society have, and the need that we have to be a very sustainable and create value as a society. Thank you very much, Octavio. It's your time to close this exceptional and very interesting forum. Thank you very much to be with us.
Thank you, Gisele. No, I just really appreciate Joanne, Josep, and you, Gisele, your time and for sharing your views and experiences. Really, it's a privilege for me to have this time with you. And thank you so much. We hope it will be more often. So wish you the best and take care of your families and in each of your countries.
Thanks to you. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Octavio. Really, for me, it was a wonderful time.
Thank
See
you,
you.
Gisele.
Thank you.
Bye. See you, Joseph and Octavio.
Okay, bye.